And this is where it all ends. The final video of the Anderson Tendulkar Trophy. What a fantastic series. This is my part 2 of the ratings. Yeah, I know so many people have done them, but I'm going to do them too because I have been enjoying this series too much. And for one last final time, let's speak about the players, and then it's going to be South Africa versus Australia. Let me know your predictions for that series. By the way, last time South Africa and Australia had a series, South Africa lost 3-0. Don't think I can go through that again, especially not against the Aussies, but for now, let's do this. This is part 2. KL Rahul. Is there anybody at this point in cricket, in all formats, that is more solid than this guy? I mean, he's, I've always been a big fan of him. I thought he was amazing. Who's got all of the hundreds all over the world like him? Scoring them in some of the toughest situations. That one at Lord's, absolutely phenomenal. Didn't make any runs at the Oval. I think there were some pressure situations. So for that reason, I think he was also quite fine in the slips. Maybe one drop catch there or for spinner or something. But I think all in all, a solid, fantastic 8 for KL Rahul. Ben Duckett. I mean, yeah. A lot of mixed opinions about him. A lot of people have him in their 11 overall, 11 of England and India. I would also choose him over Jaiswal just because of his stats, guys. I mean, almost 500 runs, same as just a little bit less than KL. At a strike rate of 82 or something, it's the highest out of everybody for an opening batter, right? To have that strike rate, to score almost 500 runs and to have an average over 50. I mean, I think him as well, definitely Ben getting an 8. Now on to Sai Sudarshan. Now, for those of you who've been following me, I think you know that I'm a big fan of him. Unfortunately, an average of 20, 23 or something, not very good, and on some of these pitches that we had in England, I know he was in and out of the side. That's why it's quite tough. But I think neither him nor Karun Nair actually impressed. But I do think that with somebody like a Sai Sudarshan, right, you need to think of people like Hashim Amla, for example, who, when his career started, it didn't really lift off in a way that people expected it to. But then eventually, with trust and time, he lived up to his full potential. And I really do think that about Sai Sudarshan. But unfortunately here, I'm going to have to give him a 5. Ollie Pope. So yeah, I gave Jaiswal a 6, right? So with Ollie Pope, and we've seen this happen quite often in England now, is where the conditions just kind of get a little bit better, right? And he's got one of the worst averages in the 4th innings. I'm not sure if it's just for England or if it's just a batter at number 3 in general, but it's something like 19 or 20. And you're looking at some of the conditions that we played in, that's just really, really not good. I don't think underwhelming quite cuts it. And I was quite surprised that Stuart Broad picked him in his side. Yeah, I get that you want to have Gill and Root as a fight out for number 4, but you'd rather just put one of those two at number 3 than choose Ollie Pope, right? Look, some of the innings, they were okay, kind of like Jaiswal, here and there, made some sort of contribution. Jaiswal did contribute a bit more than him, but Jaiswal also dropped over 100 runs in catches. So, I thought Ollie Pope's captaincy was okay. Yeah, I'm going to give him a 6. Rishabh Pant. I mean, you guys call ABD an alien. I just call Rishabh a freak. I mean, the things that he's done, he's probably one of the few people that could make Sonny Gavaskar the happiest man on earth. And at an hour or so later, he makes him want to break plates. That's what you get with Rishabh Pant. He is a walking drug. You get a little bit of him, you just want more and more and more. Phenomenal, again, series by him. I said a few times now, I think soon enough we'll be able to make this argument that he could be one of the best, if not the best wicketkeeper batters. It's still early days, but he's surely showing a lot of potential there. I thought, for the most time, he got all of those runs. I'd give him an 8.5, maybe even a 9 for his batting, but I just think his keeping at the moment, maybe it's still a bit of an aftermath of the injury, but his keeping isn't really that good for me, guys. I've got to be honest. But he still gets a solid 8. Again, he just fearless. I also think sometimes he just goes a little bit too far, but everybody's got their opinion on that. I just wish, I guess, that because he's got one of the leadership roles now in the team, that we could just dash a bit of responsibility into his performances. But like I said, giving him a solid 8. Joe Root. Similar for me to KL Rahul, right? Some very decent knocks. I thought Joe was actually really, really good in the slips as well. He took some really, really good catches. He's the second highest run getter. I know a lot of you guys were mad at me for Shubman Gill. I said if it was just for his batting, I'd give him a 9, but there were quite a few captain errors. And look, I know we're supposed to be nice and it's his first sort of series as a captain, but if you're not going to be honest about your mistakes, you're not going to learn from them, right? Trust me, I need to do that on the daily. But Joe Root, I just thought in the slips, he also actually dropped a few. So I also had him at 8.5. I'm going to give Joe a solid 8. I feel like kind of a similar series to a KL Rahul, played some really tough innings, then also played some gritty innings, but a good all-round solid 8. Because here's the thing, we've seen more of Joe Root in the past, actually. So for him to make this 500, not actually one of his best against India, but still very, very good. And I think he'll feel good going to Australia. So let's give Joe a solid 8. Washington Sundar is just going from strength to strength to strength. Like we saw the amazing drift that he got, right? He's also quite a bit of a tall guy as well, so he'll get a bit of bounce as well. His bowling, I thought he was underused. I thought sometimes, see again, here we go to Shubman Gill's captaincy again, guys. If I could sit here and tell you all of the things, little things that he did in the game, then you will understand my rating of 8. But here's another example. So many times I thought to myself, and not just me, some of the commentators as well, thought that, could he not have brought Washington Sundar in a little bit earlier? And I'm not actually talking about a little bit, I'm talking about 20 overs earlier. Sometimes it was past the 40 over mark. Excuse me, that was my cat. Sometimes it was past the 40 over mark. And then I just felt to myself like, now the batters are in. You want him actually bowling when the batters are new at the crease, because we know this. England a little bit, sometimes a little bit weak against spin. So again, I just thought there was some missed opportunities. And sometimes he even brought in Jadeja before Washi, when we all knew that Washi was the more threatening bowler, I think, in these types of conditions and with the drift that he got. Can you believe it? His batting average for the series as well is 47. So for me as well, he gets a solid 8, I think. Maybe he could even get a bit more, but I wanted to see him a bit more with the ball, given a bit more responsibility with the ball. But I think a solid, he didn't always bat as well sometimes. I'm going to give him a solid 8. Could probably be an 8.5 if you want to argue me on this one, so go ahead. But yeah, I'm very, very, very impressed by him. Next, let's go to, we're going to jump to another Indian here. We're going to go to, let's go to Josh Tongue. Very interesting series. Something in my head tells me I already did him, but then I realized I did not do him. I'm talking about like reviewing him. But his economy rate for me at the start was kind of all over the place. He's got loads of wickets as well. I was quite surprised that he was the second highest wicket taker. But then Nasser Hussain or somebody said he was quite good, getting the wickets of tail enders. And then I started looking at some of the stats and I realized, he did actually take a lot of tail ender wickets. In the last match that we played, got 8 wickets, and there was some really... So he actually went from strength to strength, right? I still think his economy rate at times really gave India sort of like a foothold in a door, allowed India to move the game forward. So his accuracy, his bowling action as well, it's going to be very difficult, I think, to be consistent and accurate with that. But I think, pretty solid. I'd say 7. I know he took all of those wickets, but I do have a feeling that quite a few of them were tail enders. So let me know how you feel about that. But I'm going to go and give him a good 7. Now let's move on to one of my favorite players, Jadeja. Yeah, you know, this guy's very underrated. I thought people were very unfair towards him at the Lord's Test match. When a lot of big names actually failed. You know, we're talking about guys who we've been giving good ratings to now throughout this whole process. He was one of the only people, if not the only person, that survived that onslaught, because you saw how dangerous Jofra Archer was, and just the way that he did not look as though he was going to be dismissed. I know this is a phrase that we overuse, but he just didn't look as though he was going to be dismissed. And just the fight that he showed, and to then receive all of that criticism and then come back and bat in the way that he batted in the next match, I just thought that was fantastic, you know. And I thought his bowling, maybe a little bit left to be desired, but the pitches were flat as hell. We got to also, when you talk about Jadeja, you can't forget to talk about the fielding. How many runs did he save in the 5 test match series? That would be an interesting stat, but I'm sure it's more than 50. Could it even be 100? I won't be surprised. It's Jadeja, you know, at his age, to still be probably, in my opinion, the best fielder out of England and India. So he's going to be my big player of this series, and I'm going to give him a 9. Chris Woakes, who I'm a big fan of. Yeah, very disappointing. Again, I do think the pitches were quite flat, but he was very, I guess a bit disappointing. I also thought maybe he was a bit unlucky, but at the end of the day, you know, we can't really just base everything on luck. I just don't think he was his best self. I also think with the bat, this is maybe a bit harsh. You can let me know what you thought about him. I just expect so much of him. I remember the Ashes against Australia a few years ago. He was just phenomenal. And that's sort of like the bar is set then, isn't it? I'm going to give Chris Woakes, guys, I'm going to give him a 5. Just because it was just not really a lot of wickets, and usually, you know, he's one of the opening bowlers, so I just kind of expect a little bit more of him. But yeah, 5 for Chris Woakes for me. Then we go on to Mohammad Siraj. I think maybe we've got last match bias, but in those 2 matches, you know, that India won, he was instrumental in that. The pressure to do what he did at the Oval, you know, 4 wickets, 36 runs. How when Harry Brook lost his wicket, he just came in and he stormed in, and it was just weapon after weapon of destruction, really. And that whole England lineup just kind of imploded because of Siraj. Very underappreciated. I'm seeing Bumrah being attacked all online now, which I don't think is fair. The question that needs to be asked is, why are these guys not performing when Bumrah bowls? That's the question people need to be answering. But I thought Siraj was fantastic. Probably would be giving him a 9, because I think in Manchester really wasn't that great. He's too inconsistent at times, right? Sometimes he's like, I'm a number 1 in the world bowler, and then other times he's like, I'm a number 18 or number 19. But he did some absolutely incredible stuff. He's got the heart of a lion, as so many people would say. So I'm going to give Mohammad Siraj an 8.5. Now let's go to Bashir. I think people were a bit tough. Now let's go to Bashir. I think people were a bit tough on him, and rightly so. I thought he was okay. I know he's young. I do think, though, that he's quite tall and he would be able to get some bounce, like, you know, Nathan Lyon would in Australia. So I don't think that they should count him out. I think maybe Australian conditions, you know, not obviously every match, but some of them, he could be quite useful. But here in England, conditions didn't really help, but we need to judge you on what you did. And, you know, he was the bowler that India thought we're going to go to town to, and they did more often than not. He doesn't do a holding job as well as Dawson, even though Dawson was a bit disappointing for me as well, but we'll get to him. I just thought that maybe he doesn't always know when to attack and when to defend. Here's the other question: how good of an attacking spin bowler is he really? You know, I guess in time we'll find out, but for me this was a 6. And now to Jofra Archer. You know, I said it before, how great is it to have him back in the test arena? I think it was smart from England to rest him. Actually, maybe in hindsight not, because they lost the match and therefore, you know, they could have won the series, and I do think Archer would have made a massive difference. But I think, you know, try and get him in as many matches as you can in Australia. I thought the 2 games that he played, the wickets that he took, the moments, the pressure, you haven't played test cricket in 1,500 days, and to come in to bowl at the speeds that he did, he bowled the fastest over of his life. I'm going to give Jofra a solid 8. Now we move on to the guys who just got their one or so opportunity. This is always tough to rate this, so forgive me, but we can only judge them on the one match. We're going to start off with Gus Atkinson in the last match. Absolutely phenomenal. I think so good for England to have him back. You know, great with the bat as well. The bowling, so accurate, so dangerous. I'm really looking forward to seeing him in Australia. You know, a fifer in his first innings back. So I'm going to give Gus, just for that one match, a solid 8. Dhruv, quite unlucky, you know, to think that you'd spend more time keeping. Look, his keeping started off really well for me, and then little mistakes started creeping in. The batting wasn't really that great, although the batting was, in my opinion, at the hardest deck of the series. I thought he was okay. You know, again, I'm only judging him on one match. His keeping was good at times, and then it wasn't that great. So let's just, you know, I want to give him a 5, but I just feel like, you know, he put a lot of effort in, and to keep for all of the Rishabh Pant was just one injury after the other, just for the solitary match and what he did. And he also made that one error, but then India still, you know, the Dhoni thing, remove your glove if you need to run out, if the non-striker wants to come in for a single. I'm going to give him, actually, guys, I'm just going to give him a 5. I didn't think it was that great, but hopefully he gets a little bit more opportunities in the future. Next, we're going to go to Liam Dawson. A couple of runs with the bat. You know, I thought his economy rate was really, really good for a pitch like Manchester that was flat as hell. I just think he could have been better, though. You know, he's got all the experience in the world to just, his lines and lengths weren't always too accurate. But I'm going to give him a 6, though, because there was some contributions with the bat, and he kept it tight. He did a holding job, which I feel like if the pitch isn't giving you anything, your spinner needs to do a holding job, which I think he did quite well. So it's going to be quite a matchup between him and Bashir for the upcoming series. Then Cambodge, yeah, I feel really sorry for him as a fast bowler to come in and, you know, you have to bowl. I mean, the Manchester pitch was just dead, right? And it was really slow as well. In the past, the Manchester deck was one of the fastest decks in England. Yeah, guys, not a very good performance. I just think very unlucky for a fast bowler to come in to play your first match and then you have to play there. It's kind of like if South Africa needs to pick a fast bowler and tell them to go and bowl in Malton or Rawalpindi. You know, I mean, it's going to be tough. It's going to be very, very tough. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to give him a 4. But I hope to see more of him. If he can just add an extra 5-7 kilometers to his pace, I think it would be great. Vian Mulder, he's been able to do that over the last few years. So with hard work, it can definitely happen for you. And then Jamie Overton, he's also going to get a 4 for me, guys. I just thought, yeah, with the bat, didn't really contribute. Again, somebody with so much experience. With the ball, he was also all over the place. You know, I thought leaked runs from his end. Yeah, he's going to get 4 as well for me. yeah, you just expected a little bit more from him. So a 4 for Jamie Overton. And then finally, Jacob Bethel. I mean, this guy's, he didn't really bowl. I don't know why Ollie Pope didn't give him a bit of a job with the ball. India took real advantage between overs 50 and 80. That's usually where you get your spinner in to calm things down. He wasn't given the opportunity. See, this is where the captains come in as well. You know, I need to now give Jacob Bethel a very low score because the captain didn't trust him enough with the ball, and with the bat he really didn't play well. So for me, he's gonna get a 3. Sorry, you know, I obviously know he's a much better player than that. He's young. I'm sure in the future he'll get a lot more opportunities, but a lot of that comes down, you see how the captain affects players as well. If the captain doesn't trust a player to do something, then, did my microphone just go off? I do apologize. If a captain doesn't trust the player to do something, then you know what I mean. But that's it for the series now. It was a fantastic series. I hope you were all going to be tuning in. South Africa versus Australia on Sunday. I'm of course very, very excited for that series to begin. And yeah, guys, thanks for being a part of this series, and thanks for all the support and all the love, and I look forward to our journey together in the future. Let me know what you think of the ratings. Thanks.